Hey everyone, this is day 31. My surprise is that I made my own hero for HOTS. I made it in Warcraft's road editor just so I can show off how the hero would look like instead of just talking about it. So to begin, we will have a trailer. And I will talk about why I chose the Sorceress from Diablo 2. So this stream is going to be mainly about design. So since I wanted to make a hero for HOTS, it should be from one of the Blizzard universes. I wasn't going to make my own hero. So the main Blizzard universes were StarCraft, Diablo, and Warcraft. StarCraft, there isn't much heroes with movesets because it's an RTS. So definitely not StarCraft 1. StarCraft 2, they barely have heroes with like a full moveset. I didn't want to invent my own too much. So with Warcraft, there's actually heroes in Warcraft 3, but they have only 4 abilities, which means if I adapted all the abilities, I would have to make my own heroic, and I also don't have much wiggle room to pick what I wanted, because I would pretty much have to use those 4 abilities on the given hero. So I didn't really like that part. But notable Warcraft characters are, I think, pretty much always are made in HOTS. WoW characters, you see like Arthas and heroes like this. I mean, most of their moveset is kind of invented. So then the third universe would be Diablo. And the fourth new one would be Overwatch, but I don't play Overwatch, so I couldn't really make much from it. So yeah, back to Diablo. If you can see, Diablo is probably the best choice to pick because you can see there are heroes as the main characters since it's an RPG. And they have many abilities to pick from. So Diablo 3, all the heroes are actually in HOTS, all 7 of them. And Diablo 2, a possible candidate to pick from would have been Baal. He's the 3rd prime evil. And has a couple moves, so he could have been adapted. But I chose to go with looking at the D2 heroes, which we can see here. This is the Amazon, Assassin, Necromancer, Barbarian, Paladin, Sorceress, and Druid. So the Amazon was already made in HOTS as Cassia. The Necromancer and Barbarian are in Diablo 3, so these two are pretty similar. The Paladin, in HOTS, there is Uther, the Warcraft Paladin, and Uriel, the WoW Paladin. So I didn't really want to bring the Diablo Paladin here. He also has two out of 3 skill trees are pure auras. So unless I made him just based off one skill tree, it would kind of have been hard to adapt the Paladin. So my last choices would have been the Assassin, the Sorceress, or the Druid. I was thinking of making like, you say like, let's pick the Druid, right? And then to represent him, you pick what, one ability from each skill tree, right? He has like elemental skill tree, shapeshifting, and then summoning, I think. So you could say he summons like a wolf and then can turn into like a werebear, and then can call down like a fire fissure. So that's how you can make the Druid. Or you could pick a specific tree, just like, let's say shapeshifting Druid. And then like with the bear, he has like fire claws or something. So I was debating whether to pick the hero as a whole or just pick a specific tree. Like the assassin, you could just pick the martial arts assassin. So then you could kind of see the idea would just be like a melee hero, melee assassin in the HOTS. Like Valeria, you have the combo point system, you can make your own resource system. But then I finally decided on the Sorceress because while there's the wizard in Diablo 3, Li Ming, she focuses on pure arcane. And the Sorceress here focuses on... Well, there's no arcane in Diablo 2, but she focuses on the 3 elements. Fire, cold, and lightning. So then I decided to pick... well, all of them, because I'm greedy. So then I made 3 different... Sorceress classes. And how that worked is... here we can see the Sorceress. She's a master of the elements. The Sorceress destroys her foe with cold, lightning, or fire. Her stats, they're pretty average for mage. I literally took the average of KO, Jaina, and Li Ming for her health and her damage. There's nothing notable here for basic stats. So how she works is you pick a level 1 talent that determines her element, like Karazim. So at level 1, you start off by selecting one of her talents to determine her specialization. The specialization changes her move, set, and talents, combining 3 characters into one. Each element has its own playstyle and unique trait. The specialization do follow a rough template as shown below. The moveset will consist of a spammable nuke as the Q, a secondary ability as the W, a defensive ability as the E, and 2 heroics, obviously, to pick from. Each basic ability has 3 talents associated with it. Talents Other A and Other D affect your chosen elemental traits, which I will talk about more soon. Other A is at 7 and Other D is at 20. And all 3 elements can grab the elemental attunement. The name will be based on the element, granting access to her other heroic, the one you didn't take. So it's like Alaric, you can have both heroics if you wanted at 20, or you can upgrade her, the heroic you chose. So I usually make a template to follow, and this was mine that I picked to plan out. So one, you can see we have cold mastery, lightning mastery, or fire mastery. You take one, and that just sets up the rest of her abilities and talents. So at 4, you can pick a talent for all your basic abilities. And then 7, 13, and 16 is where you pick the second and third talents for those abilities. 10, still heroics. 20, also upgraded heroics. The second heroic if you wanted access to it. And another talent here. There's a few extra talents here. And yeah, we can begin. I'll start talking about the cold sorceress. Let's go over the moveset first, and then I'll go over talents. So if you pick cold sorceress, the trait is cold mastery. Ability damage chills, slowing movement speed by 20% for 4 seconds. Very similar to Jaina, who has, I think, 25% movement speed slow, also 4 seconds. But Jaina can pretty much crit with her abilities because of chill. The sorceress can't, this is just a slow. Her first is Ice Bolt, launches a frozen shard of crystal that deals 280 damage. I won't really go over these basic stats, you can just read them if you want, and I'll also show them. I'll be mindful to keep the camera, since I know you can only see the right side of the screen. Okay, it's good enough. So it's a skill shot, right? You just launch a crystal shard. go straight. Like that, simple. Pretty similar to Jaina's. And then next we have Frost Nova, releases a wave of frost around her, dealing 220 damage. So it's close range, centered around her. Make sure you can see it. It's just a basic AoE nuke, and applies chill. All abilities apply chill. And then third, every time I alt-tab, it's going to pause Warcraft. But third is Shiver Armor. Encases herself in a shroud of ice, granting 30 physical armor for 3 seconds. Enemies that attack her are dealt 60 damage.
If you insist. Once again, it's up to the elves.
So you just pop it, you get 30 armor, right? You take reduced damage. Well, you can't see the armor stat here.
If you insist. Once again,
So let's say the enemy's attacking you. You pop it, you take reduced damage, and then it actually hits them when they attack you. So it's just attacks.
what a good idea.
And the hit is instant. So it's like a mini reflect from Genji. So for 2 heroics, she has Blizzard. It's, I want to show you, a hail of ice descends for 4 seconds, with each shard dealing 300 damage.
If you insist.
So it's like Gul'dan's Reign of Destruction,
Once again, it's up to
except it lasts about half as short, but has twice the damage. The AoE matches, and the Shard Ray also matches.
what a good idea.
So you can see the average
Once again, it's up to the elves.
of getting hit is, let's say, like, it's kind of random, but you can get hit by 300 damage, right? So you can get hit by, like, these guys got hit by 3 times, this guy got hit by like 4 times, this guy 5 times. So on average, it deals maybe, let's say, 3 hits on average, so 900 damage. It's actually not channeling, unlike Gul'dan's. Well, I mean, his isn't channeling, but it has long cast delay. None of the heroes I really made them with cast delays in mind, because they aren't in Diablo 2. You just drop it and move.
Once again, it's up to the elves.
So the other heroic is the famous Frozen Orb. Throws an orb that spirals continuously, releasing a volley of bolts for 80 damage each before exploding at the end.
If you insist.
It just shoots shards, which then explodes.
It's up to the elves. What a good
So you can see it just deals a bunch of like minor clip damage, right?
About time.
As it passes near enemies. They just take a few hits. Very slightly. The closer you are to the center, the more hits you take.
This better be good.
And then at the end, you can see that there's a sweet spot.
Do you require aid here? Once again, it's up to the elves. It's about time. Will it be Hotshot?
I don't land it that well, but
Help me.
you can see it hits like
Once again, it's up to the elves.
multiple times at the very end.
This better be good.
You could technically hit 80 times 16 because it explodes at 16 shards at the end. That's about 1,000 damage right at the tip.
Do you require
My implementation's a bit wonky here, so just listen to what I say. And let's see. And then we can talk about talents. And then I'll go back to the Sorceress in Diablo 2 soon. So the talents, we have 2 that always affects the trait. Like I said, it is other A and other D. So the first one is pickable at 7, the second one is pickable at 20. We have 2 more talents that aren't related, other B and C, have 13 and 16. And then finally the elemental attunement. So for cold, we have cold-blooded. Enemy heroes affected by chill have 25% reduced healing received. It's nice, because chill is pretty easy to apply on the enemies. You get healed less. And then we have mist. Chill effect can stack up to 3 times. So I do have, I picked like about the 6 most interesting talents to show off. So we have mist here. So this is like a 20% slow, right? And then this is 3 hits of chill. I'll talk about why it's 3 hits soon. So that's a 60% slow. And then you also have 75% reduced healing received, which seems to be the cap that they chose in HOTS, other than Anna with 100%. And the movement speed slow at 60 is also very strong, since you can keep refreshing it. And that's also like a movement speed cap that they seem to like. At Arthas, goes up from 40 to 60% slow at 20. I think there's another hero who has like a pretty passive 60% slow, but I can't think of it off the top of my mind. The Sorceress's other talents are Heart of Ice. Regeneration globes grant 10% of max HP as shields, stacking up to 50%. This one, there's no duration limit. It's permanent until you wear it off. So yeah, it stacks 5 times, you pick up 5 globes. If you're at like 45% shields, you can just pick up another globe, it goes up to 50%, and then it caps there. So this one, it works good with Shiver Armor, because you get armor, and that's affected, mitigates damage taken, which actually makes shields more effective. And then we also have Shatter, basic attack against shield minions, instantly kill them. This is just like a flavor talent. There's no combos with this other than with Frost Nova, which I'll talk about. And you have Cold Attunement, unlocks the other heroic, which takes over the trade button. So for her talents, Ice Bolt has Snowpiercer. Ice Bolt will pierce once. Jaina has something like this also. I think that pierces twice, but I only have pierce once, because it's too strong if it pierces too much. As we have Ice Blast. Ice Bolt will briefly freeze enemies for 0.5 seconds. So this is an actual stun. It's a very brief stun, but it will interrupt things as it's a stun. And then we have Glacial Spike. Ice Bolt explodes upon impact, applying its effect within 1.5 radius. So this is Glacial Spike. Explodes, and then it deals all its effects in its radius, the damage, the chill. And then yes, it does work with all the talents. You have it with Ice Blast. Oh, wrong button. You can see it's an AoE stun, AoE freeze for 0.5 seconds. And then you can also see why I made Snowpiercer. So you can have a piercing shot that explodes AoE effect and applies its effect at each impact. So you can apply like 2. Let's say you shoot here, it explodes, right? So people with piercing and exploding effect is, I think, just Hanzo. That's why his only pierces once also, because he has an explosion talent. So for Frost Nova, we have Glacial Expansion. Frost Nova has 20% increased AoE and travels 20% faster. Pretty basic, not much to show there. Creeping Cold. Frost Nova leaves behind a patch of ice that chills for 5 seconds. That one you saw when I showed you with Mist. So you Frost Nova, and then it leaves a patch of ice. That chills for that last 5 seconds, and it chills anyone who goes through it.
Kick down, Sparky.
Say the word. On my way.
It gives you more crowd control.
Of course.
Will it be hotshot? If you insist.
So why that works with Mist, Frost Nova applies a chill stack, and then the ground effect is a second chill stack. And Ice Bolt was my third chill source. That's how I applied 3 stacks for Mist.
About time.
Shatter also works pretty good with Creeping Cold, because you have that 5-second window. You just drop this inside the minion wave, and then you just all attack for the next 5 seconds, instantly killing them. It's pretty mana efficient. And then for Frost Nova, the third talent is Ice Age. Frost Nova puts her and enemies hit into time stop for 2 seconds. So this is a very interesting talent because it is like Ice Block, but also affects enemies. So this is pretty much an enormous version of Chromie's Stasis Trap. So you can just use it standalone at any time. If you want to dodge stuff like Pyroblast coming your way, you can just Frost Nova yourself. And then you just instantly work like an ice block for 2 seconds. Or you can run up and hold the enemy team for your team to get in position by going up and using Ice Age on enemies to hold enemies in time stop, because you do not affect allies. So this is good setup. I'll mention for time stop in HOTS, durations don't expire during time stop. So I mean, chill still applies normally, and then the time stop effect doesn't like waste any duration or anything. For Shiver Armor, we have Crystallize. Shiver Armor duration increased by 1 second. It's just easier to mitigate stuff, right, with a bigger window, so you don't have to time it as tight. We have Frozen Armor. Shiver Armor also grants 30 spell armor. So this physical damage is pretty much just attacks and HOTS. There's very rare physical spells. This is why it only damages attackers. So now if you take Frozen Armor, you can pop this when you're about to get hit by a skill shot, just so you can mitigate since it has 30 spell armor now. And then lastly, we have Chilling Armor. Taking damage from a hero during Shiver Armor counters with an Ice Bolt, which I will show you. We have Chilling Armor.
About time.
So they're just tagging you, right? And then you press Shiver Armor with Chilling Armor. It shoots an Ice Bolt.
This better be
Some things to note, it will only shoot an Ice Bolt once per hero, and it only shoots against heroes. So at most you can get, 5 free Ice Bolt shots from you,
Do you require aid?
because 5 enemy heroes that hit you. And the Ice Bolt is talented, so you can run
Will it be
Ice Blast, right?
Orders. Aye, sir.
kick down,
What do you
Sparky?
need? What do you need? Here's my
Do you require
Yeah, it freezes them, and then obviously Glacial Spike also works.
Yes, my lord.
aid? This better be
Aye,
good.
sir.
Will it be hotshot?
What do you need?
Do you require aid?
Maybe it's not close enough.
Right.
This better be
What do you need?
good. Kick down, Sparky.
Man, I'm your shooter. I'll take care of it.
Oh, get closer.
This
Here's my lead. You have a
better be
target?
Do you require aid?
Yeah, you see the AoE freeze works fine, right? So this is a very good defensive talent, since you have free Ice Bolts. I mean, they can sidestep the Ice Bolt since it is a skill shot, but melee attackers
Me. Help you.
can't really, since it's just melee range. It pretty much instantly hits them. This is taking any damage from a hero. It doesn't have to be from an attack. So yeah, mages can also proc this. Any heroic damage will proc this. So like not summons, but yeah. And then for the heroic upgrades, we have Whitetail. Enemies within Blizzard have their movement speed slowed by 50% and reduced vision.
Once again, it's up to
We have Whitetail here.
It's about time.
Yes, my lord.
Will it be hotshot? Once again, it's up
You
to
draw Blizzard. Draw Blizzard on the enemy, right? And then they have reduced vision.
On my way. Right.
So it shrinks to only the AoE of Blizzard, which is 900 or 9, sorry, in HOTS units. And then they're also passively slowed. They don't have to be hit by the shard to be slowed by chill. While they're inside, they're just slowed. So it's hard for them to escape. The moment you cast Blizzard, they can't see. Hard to escape like this.
Aye, my lord. Of course.
Will it be hotshot?
And obviously with the reduced vision, they don't see allies. They don't see anything else other than themselves in that small area. And then we have Frozen Orb, Winter's Reach. Frozen Orb bolts travel 25% farther and will pierce. I actually only made the talented version in Warcraft, so I can show you once again.
If you insist.
Normally it's not supposed to have pierce, but that's only with the talent will it have pierce. Just like this, it just pierces everything. I mean, the main ball pierces, but the small shards will not pierce unless you have the talent.
Once again, it's up to the elves.
So where I put the talents, like I said, all the basic abilities get a talent at 4. And then I placed talents, the rest of the 6 talents at 7, 13, and 16. So I decided with the strongest talents first, which would have been Chilling Armor since it gets free procs, and then Ice Age. Is the other 16 that I picked. And then with those two in mind, the others are pretty easy to sort because you can see, let's say, let's call this QWE, right? Ice Bolt, Frost Nova, and Shiver Armor. Since I want like at 7 for these to be 2 different abilities, you can see here this is W and this is E. So I can't do another W and E because that will leave Q and Q, right? So then once I have a W and E, this one has to be QW or QE. For 7 and 13. So then for Q, you decide which one's stronger. I decided Glacial Spike is the strongest with the AoE Explosion, followed by the Mini Stun, and then the Pierce. And then for her W or E, I picked Creeping Cold. And then Glacial Expansion was the first one. So then once I had the talents, and then I sorted them by pretty much strength. And I made sure there were some specific combos that I chose. And made sure you could take them in the talent tree. So Glacial Expansion was the weakest, so you could take that at 4. Same with Crystallize, it's the weakest effect, so you could take that at 4. So that left Frozen Armor at 7, so I just gave you Frozen Armor at 7. And then you look at the tree, and then there's some combos that I wanted, like Chilling Armor with all the Frostbolt talents. Icebolt talents, sorry. Then you could take Snowpiercer, Ice Blast, Glacial Spike, and then Chilling Armor. So you can get a max Ice Bolt. And then a Chilling Armor that procs a max effect Ice Bolt. Also, this pattern follows the fact that I wanted you to be able to specialize in any of the 3 abilities. So you can see here's a QQQ, W is here, W, 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 or E, E, E. So it's not like 2 conflicting talents that you have to pick one from. It's never like this for all 3 of my trees. because that's my preference for making the skill tree. And then same with the other talents. I sorted them by power. I believe I made Mist first. Yeah, I made the 20 for all the traits first, and then I made the 7, and then I kind of crammed these two. They have kind of the weakest amount of thematic inspiration, I guess. Because I wanted, that's all the talents, right? So that's the talents for the Cold Sorceress. And then I wanted to talk about how I picked these abilities. So then I picked like the Sorceress, right? So we look at the Sorceress, the Diablo 2 Sorceress. So you can see they have 3 skill trees. All heroes in Diablo 2 have 3 skill trees, 10 abilities in each tree. So we have obviously fire, lightning, and cold trees. So then you can look at, I looked at each tree and then I picked abilities to follow a rough template. A defensive ability pretty much comes first. The heroic is the signature abilities that I would call for Sorceress, which was pretty easy to determine, especially for the Cold Sorceress. And then these are 2 more spells. So you look at here's the cold tree. Pick 2 things that you call the signature Cold Sorceress. And then my answer would be Blizzard and Frozen Orb. I also wanted to mention that, does this work? Okay, this kind of works. That all the Sorceress trees have a Mastery ability. I'll call that the trait, and its effect is really boring, that's why I call that the trait. So we have 9 more to pick from. So we have the 2 heroics in mind. And then I looked around, you can see there is a defensive branch, the armor. There's 3 armors. I looked at them, picked one for the effect. I think I picked, which one did I call it? Chilling armor, Shiver armor. Because Shiver armor has because it damages daggers. And then with this, I looked at the other 2 and then made them talents. Like this one, it fires Ice Bolt, right? So that's why mine counters with an Ice Bolt. This one, it freezes attackers. I just stole the name and then just said it grants spell armor. So that's an easy defensive choice. So I had Chilling Shiver armor. And then you could look at her 3 projectiles. She has Ice Bolt, Ice Blast, and Glacial Spike. I looked at these, and then this one has an AoE freeze explosion. This one is a single target freeze. And this one is just a slow, which is called chill. So then, yeah, I picked Ice Bolt as her spammable nuke, Q. These 2 became talents. This one was the AoE one. This one became mini stun. And then that just straight out left me one more choice for her W, which is Frost Nova, which is just AoE nuke. That applies chill also. So for this one, I just straight out made my own talents. So yeah, that's like how I adapted the Sorceress skill tree into HOTS. I looked at all the abilities like this. And then what else do I have to mention? Mist is a reference to the rune wards. There are, I probably won't show you, but Diablo 2, one of the strongest items for gearing is rune wards. So I picked 3 elemental ones that kind of fit in name. And then Mist was one related to cold. I tried to adapt its effect if possible, but I was really rough with it. I think it had some type of freeze effect, or maybe it cannot be frozen, something like that. So then I just made chill stacks 3 times. So this is actually a family of Rune Wars that I adapted from. And then for this passive, it's actually taken from Diablo 3 passives. There is one for each element. I picked the name Cold-Blooded, and then I made the effect. I tried to adapt the effects also from the Diablo 3 passive, but I don't think I could adapt it that well. So then I made my own that suits and also kind of fits the name. So we have Cold-Blooded. Then these two I made up myself. They're not really related to the Cold Sorceress in any way. And let's see, next we have Lightning. Maybe I'll show you Lightning first, like this. Heroic would be Thunderstorm was pretty unique, so I picked Thunderstorm. And the other one was actually hard to pick, so I chose Chain Lightning. This is Thunderstorm. Actually, no, let me talk about the hero first, and then I will show you the Diablo 2 reference. So for Lightning, we have Lightning Mastery. Abilities have fast cooldowns, has fast casting and low cooldowns. Lightning doesn't really have a trait. Not like Chill has an actual effect. So this one is just it's just talking about how all her cooldowns are short. They all have like 4 seconds for basic abilities. So her Q is Lightning, fires a long-range piercing bolt of lightning for 220 damage. So we can see here, it just fires bolt of lightning. It comes out with a delay. It's a projectile, like Cassia's Lightning Fury. You just throw lightning. It's not a delay and then damage like Volstad's ultimate. It's actual projectile. So I can show you better, like that is delay here. You can see your ability is short cooldown, right? 4 seconds, very short. And next we have is Telekinesis, an instant burst of energy that deals 40 damage and stuns briefly. Yeah, okay, so I'll continue. So this was kind of similar to Alaric's Telekinesis. I thought giving it an instant stun would be too strong, but then I was thinking about Alaric's. Since it's vector cast, you can just drop down the enemy and then push them. And knock back Dazes, which interrupts things. It's almost like a stun. It will interrupt stationary channeling and cast times. So you're just fighting an enemy, he's about to throw a slow attack, or I mean a slow spell, right? So you just interrupt him. See something like a chomp coming off, you just instantly interrupt him, or interrupt her. It's pretty decent range. I mean, it's pretty average, slightly longer than your basic attack. Oh yeah, this is the Cold Sorceress attack if you want to see. Pew!
Your wish is my command. Help me, help you.
We have Teleport, Instant Blink. There's not much to say. I think the numbers are halfway between Zeratos Blink and Leeming's Blink. It's just, well, I picked 5. I picked 5 range. So it's still pretty short. I mean, it's nothing compared to Diablo 2's Blink. Obviously, I can't have that in its full glory in HOTS. I will show you its full glory soon. And then for the 2 heroics, we have Thunderstorm. A Tempest follows her, delivering 6 strikes over 10 seconds to nearby enemies. Deals 240 damage each and prioritizes heroes. So you activate it over 10 seconds, it just shoots every roughly 1.64 seconds, which is 6 shots over 10 seconds. You can see it prioritizes Or maybe not C, but it will. It's supposed to prioritize different targets first. So if you have like, let's say 3 guys in range only, it will hit each of them twice, exactly twice. And then on top of that, it will also prioritize heroes. So if you have 3 minions and a hero, it will hit the hero 6 times. If you have 2 heroes and 3 minions in range, it will hit each hero 3 times. So you can see that Thunderstorm is actually good as a single target ability for damage. Let's say there's just a single target here. You activate it, he's running, and then you follow him, right? And then just hits, and 6 hit, like that. And then you can see the total damage is, I didn't think you have exactly full health. But you can see math, 240 times 6 is 1440 damage over 10 seconds. 1440 is actually kind of insane. But you have to follow them for 10 seconds and it's a single target. As a reference, I think Power Blast is about 800 damage. That's one of the highest damage heroics. I think Rocket Ride from Junkrat is maybe the highest. It's about like 900 to 1000 damage. And these figures are from level 0. So I didn't account scaling in mind, since you would scale times 1.04 10 times, since you get them at level 10. And then we have Chain Lightning, releases a bolt of lightning that bounces up to 8 times, dealing 160 damage each, prioritizes heroes. That's exactly as it sounds, it's pretty much a big version of Thrall's Chain Lightning. We can see here, oops, my bad, like that. So it hits 9 targets in total since it bounces 8 times. The priority is pretty much the same as Thunderstorm. It will prioritize different targets, and on top of that, it will prioritize heroes. So yeah, example, you have one hero with, let's say 4 minions. You shoot, let's say you shoot a minion and it'll bounce to the hero. And then it'll shoot to like the second minion, bounce to hero, third minion, bounce to hero, fourth minion, bounce to hero, like this, right? Because I forgot to mention that Chain Lightning can actually bounce to the same target, like Cassius Ball Lightning, which Thrall's does not. So this spell is more like a fusion of Thrall's Chain Lightning and Cassius Ball Lightning. So you can hit a hero 5 times. If those are just 2 heroes, you hit one of them 5 times and the other 4 times. So the damage is about 800, and then 4, 5, 640. Total damage is about 1500. The values I put are actually pretty rough. They're not perfect, but they're not like pulled up from nowhere. They're based on HOTS abilities and some bouncing that I did to make them roughly fair. So you can take these numbers into account. So this is a good AoE spell, right? Because if there's only one target, there's nothing to bounce to, and then you just whiff the spell. It's also not a skill shot like Chain Lightning. It's undodgeable. It just bounces with I think 0.25 second delay between each bounce. So we actually have one good single target heroic and one good AoE heroic. And then I will talk about the talents. We have Paralysis. Every 4th instance of damage against enemy heroes roots them for 0.5 seconds.
What a good idea.
So Paralysis is...
Help me help you. Do you require aid, human? If you
So every 4 hits, right, you just attack,
Yes, my lord. I swear it.
and the 4th hit, wait a second, I didn't take it. My bad.
It's about time.
Command me. At once.
4th hit, he gets rooted.
For the king.
Will it be
So this
sufficient?
doesn't work with just attacks, it works with any damage instance, but only against heroes. So you can prep up the stacks like Samiro's crit, except you need to prep against heroes. But once you have it, you can see you could get like a long range root with lightning, right?
What a
Or instant root with telekinesis, because this is actually a single target casting. And then with Thunderstorm, you can guarantee at least 1 proc inside there, 2 if you prepped it. And for Chain Lightning, you can get 3 procs if you prep Paralysis. So the first hit triggers, the 5th hit will then trigger, and the 9th hit will also trigger. So that's 3 procs. And then we have Infinity. Ability damage ignores positive enemy armor. That one, Diablo players should actually know about Infinity. It's very meta. And the effect is very similar to what it does. So this is a pretty niche counter pick. If the enemy has armor, you can take Infinity, so they cannot mitigate against you, as you don't really do basic attack damage. I mean, you're mostly a caster, but you do have basic attack talents, as we have Charged Bolt. Basic attacks splash against enemies near the target for 75 damage.
Once again, it's up to the elves.
So this is very similar to like Cassia's Charge Strikes or Mephisto's Shard of Hatred.
Yes, my lord.
Kick down, Sparky.
You get splash
What a good
like that.
Say the word. Orders.
help me.
Deals 25% damage, so that's roughly like 50-ish damage
What do you need?
to
Your wish is my command.
Yes, my lord. Do you need?
other targets, slightly reduced damage. So there's no unit limit, it's just an AoE limit. You hit a guy, launches everything near him like that. Just ignore the double proc thing. And then we have Stack Field. Basic attacks against heroes do 10% of their current health as bonus damage. So this is kind of like Giant Killer, except it is current HP. That's why the effect is also huge, 10%. But diminishes over time, right? Because it's current HP. So if they have half health, it's only 5%. If they have like 10% health, it's only 1% as bonus damage. So this works with Charge Bolt because it triggers off basic attacks. You can see there's very good synergy between these two. Charge Bolt gives your attacks AoE and Stack Field gives your attacks bonus damage. And I will mention all of this also works with Paralysis. So Paralysis and Charged Bolt,
What a good idea.
you can see works like
Orders. Say the word.
Do you require
Orders.
like that.
Yes, my lord. I swear it.
So
help
if there's 4 enemies, you get a Paralysis proc every hit, right? You Paralysis him and then it bounces 1 to 3. And on the 4th hit, you Paralysis him again, like that.
Sire.
Constant procs, constant roots.
Will it be
Command me. Yes, my
Your Paralysis can also, if you
Say
can also like root this guy. I didn't really implement that.
orders.
this better be good.
So yeah, just every 4th instance of damage from you against enemy heroes.
Once again, it's up to the elves.
Also talk about the theme of the heroes. Let me go back to Cold. Cold focuses on crowd control, obviously, with the chill and her abilities. Lightning is... Well, I kind of made the theme into their trait. Lightning is about like fast casting, low cooldowns. You can see telekinesis is instant, teleport is instant, chain lightning is undodgeable, thunderstorm is also undodgeable. Only dodgeable one is lightning. And then I'll talk about lightning sorceresses. Okay, other talents. Let me just keep going. We have lightning with energized coil. Lightning range is increased by 50%, making the range from 12 to 18, which is very far. Li Ming's orb is about 16, I think, with the talent. Black hole is 20. You can see how far 18 is. You can snipe enemies with this. It's piercing, but it has a very narrow hitbox, as you can see. Conduit. Regeneration globes make lightning recharge 100% faster for 5 seconds. The 5 seconds is because that's how long the globe lasts, 5 seconds. And then if you recharge 100% faster, you can shoot a lightning every 2 seconds. How faster cooldown works in HOTS is every second that elapses, you calculate the bonus, right? So mine is 100% faster, so every second that elapses, it takes off 2 off the cooldown. So you can see you can shoot 3 lightning shots within this window. And then we have crack shot. Lightning deals 40% bonus damage against the first enemy hero hit. This rewards sniping, because this effect only applies to the first enemy hero hit. So if you're trying to hit the enemy hero behind his structures, you can because it pierces, but you won't get the bonus damage because you waste it against the structure. So you have to aim very well with lightning if you want the full bonuses. For telekinesis, we have projection. Telekinesis can be used to collect globes and activate objectives. This is why she kind of has a regeneration globe talent here, because of telekinesis. Because of projection, I made this one first. This is more of a reference to Diablo 2, which I can show later. This is why it also seems really weird at first. So you can pick up regeneration globes. This talent allows you to cast telekinesis at a point, not just at units. So this pretty much extends your reach, right? By telekinesis cast range. You can pick up regeneration globes, experience globes, and start channeling objectives, so you don't have to be at melee range to activate objectives. You drop telekinesis on the objectives, and then you start channeling at like 6 range away, right? And then next we have Focus Blast. Telekinesis becomes a short-ranged cone. The range becomes cut by half, but it has 3 radius as it becomes a cone, which I will show you.
Once again, it's
Your Honor.
about time.
Maybe they need to be grouped tighter. Let's try here.
Once again,
So you can see it's just a short range blast. So telekinesis is now AoE. So yeah, like I said, the range is cut by half, but then you get the AoE as the perk. And then we have kinetic transfer. Telekinesis knocks back. If the enemy collides with terrain, reset teleports cooldown. Reset teleport. Kinetic blast. Knocks back, right? Knocks back by 3, I believe. It knocks back like that. So then it rewards you if you knock them against terrain. Like Diablo's Shadow Charge, you get bonus effect if it hits terrain. So this will only trigger if it hits terrain. And the effect is a reset teleport. So let's say he's here, you teleport in, You telekinesis them, it resets teleport. And then you can do whatever you want with the second teleport. Teleport out, teleport even closer. I'll show you why. So yeah, it does work with Focus Blast if you have multiple enemy heroes. Multiple enemies. It doesn't have to be heroes, sorry about that. It pushes them all back. Like that. Oh, sorry, you couldn't see that. Let me show you again. Like that, it just pushes them together. Let me group hug better. Like that, it just pushes them. And then one of them gets hit by terrain and resets teleport. And then for teleport, we have acceleration. Using teleport reduces the cooldown of basic abilities by 1 second. But this triggers after using teleport, so it will reduce itself to 3 seconds, essentially. All your cooldowns share the same cooldown at 4. All of them. So you use teleport last. That's how you use it most effectively. So you can save 3 seconds by cutting off 1 second for each ability. We have Nova, creates an expanding ring of energy. After teleport finishes for 160 damage. This is pretty much like Calamity from Li Ming, except hers hits about twice as hard and only works on heroes. I think it used to work on non-heroes too, but it was too efficient at pushing, so they removed that. So then we have Nova like this, just deals damage, 160. At the destination only. And then we have Energy Shield. Teleport grants up to 50 armor for 3 seconds based on her current mana. So if you have pretty much full mana after your teleportation, let's say teleport is like 30 mana, right? And then you have 470 out of 500 mana, that's about 94%. And then 94% times 50 armor is about 45 armor. So you get 45 armor for 3 seconds. And you can see with acceleration that you can cast it again right as the armor wears off. You can permanently get armor as long as you spam teleport. But the thing is, you cannot spam as the armor effect gets weaker. If you have no mana after you teleport, you don't get armor. If you have half mana, you get 25 armor. So it works like this. And for her heroics, we have for Thunderstorm, Tempest. Thunderstorm strikes against enemy heroes extend duration by 2 seconds. This one is an infinite duration talent for Thunderstorm as long as you keep following, since it strikes every about 1.64 seconds. And this extends by 2. You can see why it's an infinite refresh. But it only extends against hero hits, so it's not like you can just push and then activate Thunderstorm and just get infinite Thunderstorm. So this is amazing in team fights as long as you stick onto the enemy. Thunderstorm has 8 radius, it's pretty big. And for Chain Lightning, we have Surging Arc. Every time Chain Lightning bounces, its damage is increased by 10%. So the first hit is normal damage, right? First bounce is then 10% increase. Goes up 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. The last hit deals 80% increased damage. It's not exactly double damage, but it's almost there. And then if you're curious how much bonus damage it adds altogether, you can do the smallest number plus the highest number, 10 plus 80, right? And then count the pairs. The pairs would be 10 and 80, 20 and 70, and so forth. So there's 4 pairs, 10, 20, 30, 40, which goes along with 80, 70, 60, 50, right? So there's 4 pairs of 90%, 10 plus 80, which adds plus 360% extra damage. And then you divide this. This equation works for anything with like linear growth like this. Mine is 10% per bounce. So you have 360% total extra damage. You divide that by the number of hits. I have a total of 9 hits. 1 hit with 8 bounces. Which means the average increase in damage is 360 divided by 9, which is 40%. Which is pretty good for a talent, 40% extra damage. And this is for total damage, so you can only see the 40% increased damage once you land all the hits. Like if you land a single hit, you don't even see bonus damage, right? But it's pretty easy to land Chain Lightning as it prioritizes heroes. I believe yeah, I do have it.
Once again, it's up
So
to
this
you.
is a Surging Arc. You can see it slightly goes more and more.
Yes, Smiley. What do you need,
First
Smiley?
guy is 160 damage, it goes more and more.
Orders. What do you need?
Last guy you can see is at 1658.
What do you need?
Help me.
The number in Warcraft, it's supposed to be plus 10% per level, but in Warcraft, it's times 10% per bounce, so it's not exactly as accurate as I planned for in HOTS.
Better be good.
But you can just see the damage ramps up. So then how I put the talents, we have Paralysis and Infinity there. Stack Field was definitely stronger than Charge Bolt, so I put Stack Field at 16. For Cold, yeah, I believe, okay, yeah, I put Shatter here was because I thought Shatter went well with Creeping Cold. I think that's one of the only reasons why I put Shatter down here. Oh yeah, and Heart of Ice works well with Shiver Armor. So there's no Shiver Armor talent here. You can maximize Shiver Armor with here, 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 and then take Heart of Ice. I believe, yeah, that's the reason why I put those two like that. And then back to Lightning. Stack Field is much stronger than Charge Bolt, so Stack Field 16. And then at 16, I put Connect Transfer here because Reset talents, I feel like it's definitely worth at 16. And then the other one I chose was just the damage one because my choices was a teleport talent or a lightning talent. And I chose to put the damage lightning talent. Crack shot there. And then because of that, wait, let me think. Yeah, and then because of that, that means 7 and 13 need a teleport talent. And I put Energy Shield there. Nova I gave pretty early for extra burst damage. Calamity from Leeming is also at 7. Yeah, it's at 7. And then I just finished this with Focus Blast at 13 because it turns it into an AoE stun, even though it's short range. Conduit is at 7, and then the weakest effects would have been put at 4. Conduit is separate from projection, so you can take both because both interact with generation globes. Else Conduit would probably have been a 4, but it's not, that's why, because you can take these two. Was there any other? Alright, because Connect Transfer also works with Teleport, it's a talent related to Teleport and Telekinesis is why the other talent is a Lightning talent. Okay, yeah, that's why I picked Crack Shot. You can take like all the Teleport talents. with for all the telekinesis talents, and then take this one. So like we can say like acceleration, nova, focus blast, connect transfer. I can show you focus blast, connect transfer, and nova. There's a reason why I let you take the talents like that also. It's because that combo does work as you expect.
Kick down, Sparky.
Let's see if I have... Okay, I have the 3. Should be like... You just teleport
What a good idea.
in, just an explosion, you push, you teleport again. It's pretty much a 2 hits with nova and a... Well, telekinesis doesn't do much damage, so you can see it's 160 damage times 2. Where's nova? 160 times 2, 320 plus telekinesis is 40. So that is 360 damage, as you can see on each of these guys. You can't see their HP bar, but that is... the number is correct. I mean, you can't see the HP value. It's being blocked on the left side of the screen. That's another reason why I put the talents exactly like this. So you can have conduit projection, and then you can have specifically nova, focus blast, and connect transfer. And then with the double teleport, you can also see energy shield doesn't really do much with the double teleport, but acceleration also procs twice, allowing more spam. And then if you have acceleration that procs under conduit, you can shoot lightning every... Oh, drop the cooldown to 1 second. You can see she is very spammable and mana hungry. This is why energy shield is also kind of hard to manage, and why it gives so much armor. And then I'll show you the lightning sorceress in Diablo. Yeah, I picked Thunderstorm and Chain Lightning. And then for basic abilities, we had Teleport was obviously what I picked as defensive. There was like no thinking about it. We want snappy, fast, instant mobility, which is Teleport. The thing about Teleport in Diablo 2 is the cast range. I think it's pretty much any visible point on your screen. It's instant. Mana cost goes to 1. But that's at level 25. At level 20, the standard levels for spells, it goes down to 5 mana. So you can see you have a 0 cooldown, 5 mana instant teleport. I had to nerf that greatly to accommodate that into HOTS. But this was definitely the defensive lightning spell. It's defensive is because you have to proactively use it to dodge stuff. And then for the nukes, I had lightning. It was a pretty signature nuke. Like I said, it's a piercing bolt of lightning. It's a bit of travel time. And then I chose telekinesis, actually. It's not a real combat spell in Diablo 2. It's utility. It's pretty much like a ranged cursor clicking. You can activate stuff, pick up stuff, and then do a very minor damage, stun, and knockback, I think. I made it into her W. You can see the base damage is 40. It's not meant for damage. It's just meant to interrupt things. This is why projection was made. You can pick up stuff out of range, trigger stuff out of range. Because I looked at all the abilities, we have... Because Cold Sorceress had Frost Nova, I didn't want to make another Nova for Lightning Sorceress. I made this into a talent Nova, which is pretty much Calamity from Li Ming. It's the AoE damage after... And then I slapped it onto Teleport, so... You teleport and then you get the Nova effect. Let's see. Stack field. is actually pretty similar to what I made. It deals damage based on current health, so it's very high, but it is never fatal. So this is a very weird ability to make as a basic. So I made this into a talent instead. And then we have Charge Bolt. It releases random lightning bolts. There's no random in HOTS, other than like bouncing and maybe like Gul'dan's Ring of Destruction. So if I were to make this, they'd probably like zigzag, fire a few bolts and they zigzag or something to seem erratic movement. But then I chose not to make Charge Bolt. And then her last ability was Energy Shield, which you saw me make as a talent. It gives her, when she takes damage, a large portion of it is taken from her mana instead. That was too complicated to adapt, so I just slapped an armor. And that armor is based on her current mana, that's why. So if you have high mana, Energy Shield becomes more effective, so it doesn't wear out. That's why it's based on your current mana percentage. And then you can see I made Charge Bolts into a talent, the splash attack, right? Charge Bolts. Because if you can't tell, I actually at some point decided to shove every ability into each element. So there is a reference to all 10 abilities for each tree. What was the easiest, right? We had like one ability, 2 talents, one ability, 2 talents. The other two I kind of had to cram it a bit, but I made it work. So everything here is actually inside the tree. So yeah, you can see Charge Bolt and Stack Field over here. Lastly, we have the Fire Sorceress. Hers is Fire Mastery. Some abilities ignite, dealing extra damage. Deals 25% damage to structures. So some people with 2 spammable abilities, let's say Leeming's first, Junkrat's grenades, they deal drastically less damage to structures. It's because else they would be too efficient at pushing structures. This is why Ignite also has this damage penalty.
This better be good. It's about time. Do you require aid, human?
So her first ability is Inferno. Emits a stream of flame that deals 200 damage per second and drains 30 mana per second. Deals 25% damage to structures. So this is pretty much a hybrid of Diablo's Lightning Breath and Death Wings. Incinerate.
If you insist.
So it's a channeling, you just activate it. You can turn it like a Diablo, Lightning Breath. But then it's a channeling like Death Wings, so you can drop it very short or channel very long. So it just consumes mana. It ends if you get interrupted, since it's a channeling spell. If you get interrupted or you run out of mana or you cancel it, it ends. And then we have Firewall. A perpendicular wall of fire is formed, igniting for 800 damage over 4 seconds. So if you do the math, this is 200 DPS.
What a good idea. It's about time.
Please stay in it. Take full damage. It's 800 damage.
Kick down something.
We have Blaze. Becomes infused for 6 seconds. increasing movement speed by 20%, and movement will ignite for 900 damage over 6 seconds. You can see the total damage is slightly higher, 900, but it's only 150 DPS, slightly lower because its duration is longer. So it's a self buff. First of all, it just gives you instant MS bonus like this. You run faster,
Once again, it's up to the others.
and then you leave a dot, right?
6.
Enemy goes in it, he took damage. Show you again.
What a good
So you can go by enemies, they take damage. He tries to follow you, he takes damage, right?
Of course. On my way.
Help me, help you.
The last 6 seconds is so you can paint some fire by the objective, and then it lasts a while. You can see if you just like
Time.
Yes, my liege.
hang by an objective for like 12,
What a good
you just
idea.
camp there. They can't take the objective
Aye, my lord.
because they take damage. You can stay there for like 12 seconds.
Aye,
Because
my
the buff lasts 6 seconds, and then the fire lasts 6 seconds.
lord.
Without delay.
So it's a very long lasting dot because of that. We have the 2 heroics. Meteor pulls forth a meteor that comes crashing down after 2.4 seconds, dealing 900 damage, and ignites for 600 damage over 2 seconds.
It's about time.
So you can see the total damage is 1500.
By a human.
The delay 2.4 is just a Diablo delay actually, 2.4 seconds. It's very long. I think in HOTS the longest delays are about 1.5 seconds, I think. Such as Orpheus Eternal Feast. I think there's at least one more. And then obviously the longest is Rocket Ride from Junkrat, which takes 3.75 seconds. And then it deals, yeah, about 900 to 1000 damage. And then his total mayhem triggers and deals, I think, about another 800 to 1000 damage. So I think my meteor damage is fine. There's some bonus damage, but only if you stay in it. I mean, it's a dot on the ground, you can just leave.
Right.
Help me, help you. What a good idea.
And then we have Hydra, raises an elemental of pure fire, which attacks nearby enemies for 90 damage. Hydra lasts 10 seconds and has 2 charges. So you can drop Hydra and just start shooting their attacks, so they are, you know, guaranteed hits.
Aye, my lord.
You can see the damage is actually only 720, which is 8 volleys. It attacks every 1.25 seconds, I believe,
Kick down, Sparky.
or very close to that. So it's not every second. And then you can drop 2 charges. That's part of the base ability.
Again, it's up
What
to
do you
the
need?
others.
So it's supposed to be like you can drop 2 charges.
Orders? Of course. Right. Of course. Right. Aye, my lord. Of course. Aye, my lord.
Help me.
Yes, my liege.
What a good idea.
So for her talents, we have Conflagration. Ignite damage is increased by 40%. So we only some abilities ignite, not all, but this damage bonus is pretty hefty. And then we have Flickering Flame. Using an ability sprays fire, dealing 100 damage per second for 3 seconds. This one, it doesn't stack, but the duration refreshes if you cast another ability. I have that one, Flickering Flame.
What a good
do you
idea.
need?
Once again,
You
it's
cast
up to the
any ability, you get this buff. It burns enemies. You can see it's 360 damage over 3 seconds.
My liege.
Kick down, Sparky. It's about time.
Then the AoE is
The others.
4. Radius is 4. It's like the size of Imperious's burn.
About time.
So it's pretty big. You don't have to hug the enemy. You just refresh it,
About time.
refresh it, refresh it.
Once again.
So you just keep refreshing it, right? Extra burn. Pretty nice.
What do you need?
Kick down, Sparky. What'll it be, Hotshot? What a good idea. If you insist.
And then we have Firebolt. Basic attack deals spell damage instead. So her attack is like 63, I think I said. Yeah, 63. So that is just pure spell damage instead. And then we have Fireball. Basic attack deals 80 bonus spell damage against the enemy. So you can take these separately. You don't have to take them together. But if you take them together, you deal 143 base spell damage per attack. This is excluding, it will scale. This number is level 0. And then we have Fire Attunement. Unlocks the other heroic, which takes over the trade button. So for Inferno, we have Warmth, reduces the mana cost of Inferno by 10 per second. It drops the mana cost to 20 mana per second. You can see the starting mana pool is 500. You can channel this for about 16 to 17 seconds. And then with Warmth, this drops down to 20, so you can channel it for 25 seconds. Which is why you can see I have a reduced damage to structures. Else you would disintegrate buildings. So you can actually channel for a very long time. Oh, I will mention the cooldown for Inferno activates after you finish channeling. If you channel for 1 second, you cancel it, it goes on cooldown for 5 seconds. Same if you channeled it for 5 seconds. So if you do short bursts, you will feel the penalty of the 5-second cooldown a lot more. You can see through the talents why I made Inferno prioritize channeling longer. We have Incinerate. Inferno grows in size the longer it is channeled by up to 200% over 5 seconds.
It's about time.
So then Incinerate is like this.
If you insist. What a good idea.
You just start channeling it, right? And then it grows bigger and bigger
About time.
and bigger.
Once again, it's up to the others. What a good idea. Once again, it's up to
Maybe
the
let me,
others.
I don't know if that was the full 5 seconds.
What a good idea.
So you just have this enormous flamethrower. Whoops. Like this.
Time. If you insist. Once again, it's up to the elves.
And then we have Liquefy. Inferno reduces spell armor by 8 per second, up to 40 for 5 seconds. So this one also reaches max effect after 5 seconds. And it does hit 8 times a second, like Deathwing. So every hit reduces spell armor by 1.
It's about time. What a good idea.
And then we have, for Firewall, Pyre. Firewall forms a ring around the target instead. It changes the
Once again,
functionality of Firewall.
what a good
So it makes a ring around the target.
Orders?
The target itself will not take damage.
Yes, my
Kick
liege.
down, Sparky.
He will always fit in the center, right?
Of course.
But if he tries to escape, he takes damage.
Aye, my lord.
This better be good.
So this is a pretty optional change if you wanted it.
If you insist.
You have a Flash Fire. Firewall is created immediately and deals 200 initial damage.
Once again, it's up to the elves. What a good idea. Once again, it's up to the elves.
What do you need?
You can see the damage is
About time.
Yes, my
instant damage, and then the total damage becomes 1,000, 200 plus 800. So the instant damage won't
Kick down spell.
is on when it first forms, right? So if other enemies cross, they don't take the instant damage, just the dot.
Help me. Help
Orders?
you.
And then yeah, it works with Pyre
What a good idea.
and
Once again, it's up to the elves.
Say the word. Yes, my liege. Orders?
I think the flash fire damage
You
missed.
require
Let me
aid,
try again.
human?
What do you need?
Will it be hotshot?
Okay, yeah, there's a burst.
Yes, my liege. Say the word.
So the damage is the same, 1,000 damage like that. And then we have Immolation. Firewall gains a second charge with a 1 second cooldown between use.
If you insist.
I could just refresh just to show you Firewall with Immolation.
Once again,
I mean, it's kind of what you expect. You just can, damage obviously stacks. You can stack that.
if you insist.
Drop another Firewall.
About time. Once again, it's up to the elves.
Or you can,
If
you can double Pyre.
What a good idea.
Yes, my liege.
Do you require aid?
You can see the enemy gets hit by both if he's in like that sweet spot right there. I can show you again.
If you insist. About time.
Orders? Right. On my way.
Kick down spell.
So you can be creative with Firewall
Insist.
and all the Firewall talents. And then for Blaze, we have Trailblazer, gains 60% movement speed when using Blaze, decaying over 2 seconds. So after 2 seconds, you still have the 20% movement speed, so that's for the next 4 seconds. So this is an instant burst of speed. You can use it to dodge projectiles physically, or use it to chase, because the movement speed bonus is insane. We have Enchant. Using Blaze increases spell power of nearby allies by 15% for 6 seconds. It includes you, so you have bonus damage. So you can see that this works with Firebolt and Fireball, because your attack now becomes spell damage. And then it can be amplified by Enchant. And lastly we have Phoenix Dive. Blaze transforms and launches her forward, able to pass through terrain.
It's about time. Once again, it's up to the elves. It's about time. If you
So
insist.
you can cross cliffs with it.
It's about time.
There's a few people who can do this with talents like ETC Crowd Surfer. You can now just pass cliffs.
Will it be
I didn't mean to get stuck on the cliff, but
once again, it's up to the elves.
show you again.
About time.
Just
Once again,
running from the enemy. You have Phoenix Dive. You cross the cliff.
do you
Just keep
require
running.
aid?
They can't chase you.
It's about time.
What do you need? Say the word.
Help me. Help you.
Orders?
You also cross units, obviously.
This better be good. It's about time.
And then because you're in stasis,
Once again,
you can dodge projectiles that come your way.
it's about time.
Let's say he's shooting a projectile at you, and then you just Phoenix Dive through it.
Will it be hotshot if you insist?
And then for the 2 heroics, we have Calamity for Meteor, deals increased initial damage and area of effect. It's pretty simple, but it just hits a lot harder. 900 goes up to, I think, 1125. Burn damage stays the same, but you could take Conflagration to increase that one by 40%. So that goes up to 840. So if you took that one and Calamity, this spell hits for about 2000 damage. And AoE helps, bigger dot, harder to run out, so you take more dot hits. And then for Hydra, we have Molten Fiend. Hydra attacks ignite for 36 damage over 2 seconds. 36 damage is 40% of the damage. This one stacks. So it's essentially 40% extra damage as long as the enemy stays in ignite. If the enemy's mobile, they take less dot damage, right? Because they just walk out of it. But if it's stationary, like a structure, it's very good. This is just a flat 40% bonus damage.
Once again, it's up to the elves. If you insist.
So we can see
That'll be good.
Molten Fiend here.
You need.
Axe just leave that 2-second
Aye, my lord. Right.
burn dot.
Of course. On my way.
Looks a bit excessive here, yeah, I know.
Right.
Kick down.
Yes, my liege.
Because my Hydras technically shoot 3 shots every attack. And that's akin to Diablo 2. I kinda had to spend some effort to remake that. But that's a very minor detail. And then the talents that I put, Immolation, Second Charge, definitely a 16 talent. Which made, Liquefy was also pretty strong, which sounded like a 16 talent to me. Minus 40 spell armor, this works with, you know, all your damage is all spell damage, right? It's all dots, so you can just throw everything first. Throw all the dots first, paint with blaze, drop a firewall, and then liquefy on enemies. And then with those two in place, we had Incinerate and Phoenix Dive here. And then Flash Fire, Enchant, and Warmth Power Trailblazer up there. So yeah, the rest were roughly sorted by power. One notable combo was Enchant works with Firebolt and Fireball. I made sure Enchant was... Made sure you could take all 3 of them. So you can see Ignite, Inferno does not ignite, but Firewall ignites, Blaze ignites, Meteor ignites, and Hydra ignites with the talent. Other than that, you can see the Fire Sorceress focuses on damage over time and area denial. And we can see her abilities in Diablo. So yeah, the signature spells, Meteor definitely. And wait a second. And then we have, I chose Hydra as the other heroic. There's 3 heads. Up to 6 Hydras can be summoned at once. Is why I picked it has 2 charges, because it has 3 heads, and then 2 charges makes it 6 heads. And then here's the thing, it shoots 8 volleys with 3 shots per volley. I made that into Warcraft. So the defensive spell, the only thing I could have picked was Blaze. Increases your movement speed and leaves a dot. Increases MS. So this was my only choice for defensive. And then I picked Fireball as one of the abilities. Pretty signature. But this would be a basic ability, so I did choose this. And then lastly, I did not want to make Firebolt as the Q because Cold has Ice Bolt. I didn't really want to make something too similar. It's another projectile with damage. So I chose the Sorceress's only channeling spell, which is Inferno. And then with that, I made the others into talents. The fireball and firebolt is single target, fireball is AoE. I just adapted that to your attack deals spell damage. And then we had enchant. Technically only benefits attacks, not spells. But I just made it increase spell damage as a buff. And then we had warmth, increases mana regen. I had that as a talent, but then I didn't have space after making these two, so I just shoved this into Inferno to reduce the Inferno mana cost. And then that was everything from the Sorceress. And then I just made the rest of the talents. So yeah, this is the 3 Sorceress specializations that you can pick from. I believe I showed everything. Let me think. Did I not show anything else?
Kick down, Sparky. This better be good.
I also looked at Diablo 2's anything else I could add as a reference. So I looked at like items or sorceress sets. They weren't too interesting. Rune wards, nothing were like sorceress specific. That's why I barely had a reference to rune wards. Diablo 3 had more diverse talent-like things with runes for their abilities. Diablo 2 doesn't. This is why I had to make up pretty much most of my own talents. And yeah, so that's it. The hero I designed in HOTS would be the Sorceress from Diablo 2. And this is the end of the series of my HOTS redesign. So I hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.